Hi, this is Adam, and you're watching Artist of the Week, presented by ExploreNet on CIDI 99.1 FM.
Hi, I'm Lucy Pietraszkiewicz, and I'm today on CIDI 99.1 FM, and we're having a little interview.
I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, your uprising, your history, and how you got started.
Well, my parents both came to Canada after the war from Poland, and they found a spot in West Bolton. They liked it. It reminded them of the countryside of Poland, I guess. So they bought a piece of land and they started to plan their house and settle in. Then I was born in Montreal because at first they were building their house and settling down and everything as new immigrants. So I was born in Montreal. Logistically, I guess my mother was scared and there was no hospitals, whatever. But we were always here. So summer times and in the winter it was difficult, so we'd go back to Montreal. And then, so I lived here. I lived here all my life, basically, since I was a baby. So that's how I grew up here. It's hard as an immigrant family, I guess. I learned how to do basic things. I sewed, I crocheted, I played with rocks and played in the fields in the winter. In this winter I painted, I occupied myself. So that's how pretty much my upbringing was. I did live in the city. I went to school in the city. I lived in Toronto for a while. I lived in Montreal for a while studying and stuff. But this is my home. So I settled down here, and that's where I raised my family also.
And so I was wondering if you could share everything you do with us in detail.
Well, I predominantly I make semi-precious and pearl jewelry. I use natural stones, natural materials, and that's what I focus on right now. I wanted to create a type of jewelry that had a different, not a fussy type of jewelry style. I find that something that you can kind of wear all the time, have another way of looking at it. The intention was that mostly people wear jewelry for other reasons, whereas a natural sort of way of wearing it was just so that you'd feel comfortable with it, and it just changes the attitude of jewelry in per se. Looking at something more sustainable, something that you can wear and feel good wearing it, rather than for a special occasion or something like that. It's a different attitude, I guess, that I had wanted to sort of send to the world, I guess. I don't know.
And so how did you get started as a jeweler?
Well, at home, growing up, my mom always had threads and materials, and that's how we just lived. I mean, we lived in a way where there was always buttons around, and we lived in the country, so it was always stuff around. So to occupy myself, I always did embroidery and crochet and macrame, all the sort of skills that, I guess now they're not done as much, but back then that's what we did to occupy ourselves. I liked it. I liked the colors. I liked to play with different textures. So that was just something natural. And then, it just sort of evolved. It was always in me. It was natural. I thought everyone knew how to do those things, I guess, growing up. But it's just something passed down, I guess, from European traditions. And then after that, what happened is that I kind of incorporate that into my art right now, which is jewelry making. I sort of use traditional techniques. So at first it was started making it for family and friends, and you make something and it looks cute, so then afterwards it sort of turned into, well, can you make this for me? Can you make that for me? Friends started wearing it, so it kind of evolved that way.
And so what would you say your art is about today in general?
Well, it's sort of I guess a casual luxury style. It's not something. It's more of a, people I guess describe it more of a bohemian flair with this sort of artistic sort of style. It doesn't follow mainstream whatsoever. It has a sort of free spirit to it. It's easy. It's casual, but at the same time, it's very pretty. It sort of reflects the stones, the natural sort of elements in it, and highlights it. So it's a very casual sort of form of, producing items that people wear every day. It's more of a relaxed, I guess. It's not, I would not say it's mainstream. It's not something that you can pick up or see readily. It's quite different, and I like that. I like to sort of have the reaction of people saying, "Oh, I've never seen that. How did you come up with this?" and stuff. And it's different, and I like that aspect of it. I like the fact that it sort of hits a little note with someone sometimes, and attention sort of, what is that? I like that.
No, I think that's really cool. And so what made you choose this type of medium instead of another?
I like to have art. I love to have art as part of my life. It's always been part of my life. So I like having it around me. I like having it like a part of you. And I sort of sometimes laugh or giggle, and I get asked this question sometimes. And the easiest way to explain it is that painters paint with paints, and they have, their easel, and they have their colors or crayons or whatever medium they use. And I just use natural stones and pearls. Though that's my medium. When I create a piece, instead of looking for, let's say, a blue I look for a stone that has that same nuances. I sort of blend the colors in that way to give that same effect. So that's my palette, and it sometimes has its difficulties because you're looking for a certain color, and you have to go through certain stones to get that color, and each one is different because they are natural, so they sometimes don't have exactly that little color you're looking for, that palette to make it all bring it together. So that's how it kind of evolves from that end.
And so what would you say your favorite work of art is so far, and why?
Well, I create my pieces in small batches. I don't mass produce items. So each small batch is actually one of my favorites. In the moment, that is my favorite. I want to make it as pretty and as appeasing to the eye, and it has to look good for me. So I make them all in small batches, and I can sort of think about, there's one piece in particular that has a nice story behind it. I had, when I first started a few years back, I would collect things. I would collect little pearls, let's say. And I had this very tiny, tiny little amount of pearls that were not the traditional type of pearls. They were, they're what called Baroque pearls, which I work with right now. They're not round. The nacre on is a little bit different. And they had this baby blue, soft baby blue, baby pink hue to them. And they were always there, and I always liked them, and they looked very pretty and cute and odd and different. And so I said, well, all right, I'll start exploring things. And I made myself a necklace that I liked, and I put it on, and I was wearing it. And I didn't think much of it. I just enjoyed wearing it. I wore it, with jeans. I wore it with you'd have a little event sometimes in Knowlton, and I'd go and I'd put it on, I'd mix it up and stuff. And then people would say, I like that. Okay, fine, thank you. And then at a show, I was doing shows, and someone comes up and says, can you make that for me? And I couldn't, because I only had a little bit of that, and I didn't have very many. And so then I started looking out, and I started researching, and I deal with little small farmers in China that have farms of freshwater pearls. And I checked around, and I finally did find somebody that had that particular, very close to that particular type of a pearl, and I ordered them, and they came out, and they looked really, really nice. I was all excited, so I made them, and it's a special piece. It's turned into one of my classics now. It has a good feel about them, and it has that sort of energy with it. And people that buy it for their special person, or someone that looks and says, I want that, they feel good wearing it. So it's become one of my classics. So that's a little story about a little favorite piece, but I think it has a little sentimental piece in the back that, it reminds me of how it was nice wearing it, and someone saying so pretty and simple, but I guess that's one of my favorite pieces, I guess.
No, I can definitely relate to that as well. And so I was wondering, do you have any other artists that have been an inspiration to your work?
Artists that, well, it's hard to pinpoint any particular artist. I studied art history a little bit in school. So there's so many of them over the years that you kind of, when you study art history or you study the arts and whatever, there's a lot of influences that come at you. And so it's hard to sort of pinpoint a specific person or a style per se. It sort of evolves, and now I sort of trust my eye. There's no other simple way of saying it. It's just, I trust the creative process. I trust my eye. I sort of, either it looks good to me or it doesn't look good to me. And that's how I go forward with it. I do very often get inspiration now, practicality wise, as answer to your question, from nature. I find that when you look at a brook, or you look at a autumn, when you go down the Bolton Pass, for example, in the fall, or you look at a lake, or you can even look at Brome Lake, and different colors of trees, the way nature sort of blends well together, the greens and the grays, and it kind of works. So I get my inspiration of the palettes from that sort of, image that I have recently. I find that it works very, very well. On
the other end of the spectrum, I asked about your favorite piece of work that you've done so far. Would you say you have a favorite failure of yours?
Well, as an artist, I don't think anything is perfect the first time you do it. It comes with the territory. I don't think that there is any artist that does this will say that everything is always perfect. There's always failures. You try something new, it doesn't work out. I find that often you use, in my case, a certain stone that just doesn't work, and you have to redo everything. It doesn't, you have an image of it in your mind of that's how it's supposed to lie, but then finally when it's done, it just doesn't have that flavor that I want it to evoke. So I have to redo it, take it apart. So it's a work in process for each piece. There's certain pieces that, of course, they've been sort of worked through and I kind of already know, so it's not as hard for every single piece. But when there's new pieces coming up, new designs, there's always a work process that goes through, and there's failures in it. It's just part of the normal day, I guess.
And so what advice would you give to somebody looking to follow the same career path as you?
Well, if someone wants to get into jewelry making, I find that the best advice would be just to learn the basics. There's so many styles that you can choose from. It's, you don't have to be, sort of in one particular way. So I think that, you can just start small and just start creating something that you feel sort of speaks to you and you like. The business side, I would, if someone does want to do it, it's not just creating as much as I would suggest learning some basics perhaps online or taking a course in jewelry making in the direction that you want. And then, of course, learning how to do the basic business side, which is accounting, taking good pictures, social media, computer courses. That goes hand in hand. That's the backside of, I think, artists now that is perhaps not as known to the outside world, but everyone knows that it takes a lot of backstage sort of prep going on behind the final product.
And at the same time, would you have any advice that they should ignore?
I think that if someone tells you to do something, your gut needs to sort of say, is it sort of, what does your gut sort of say? Does it make sense to you? If it's something that you know that is the way that you want to do it, then of course, you follow your heart. You don't, but sometimes it makes you feel good. It's not an art. In art, it's not like, it's not mechanical. It comes from within. So you can't really sort of say, don't do that. It's like telling a child, well, don't do this smiley face. Why? Why not? Why not? Just do it. And so I think that if they follow their heart first, I think that they'll be fine.
I was wondering how COVID-19 has impacted your artistic life, if so, at all.
Well, it destabilized, I think, a lot of people, including me. I had a very good little routine going. Every weekend I would either be at a market or an event. I would meet people on a regular basis. So when at first it sort of hit that, okay, this will be not going on, it sort of made me start thinking, okay, as the events started canceling more and more, it looked like it was going to continue. And so I took that opportunity. I sort of improved my website a little bit. I learned some more computer skills. I looked of how to communicate with people. I sort of learned things new. I learned how to do Facebook Lives, which were fun, different, scary. I've never done them. I increased my computer skills a little bit more. This is an example. I mean, something new. I would have never thought that this was going to be a sort of a way, maybe 4 years back. But now it's becoming more of a routine. So, it did destabilize, but it created different opportunities. So I think from it all, I also grew as an artist. Also, it created a different avenue, different way of reaching people, so it was not all that bad. But it did destabilize, I think, a lot of people, and you just have to adapt. So that's what kind of impacted on my creative side.
So speaking about adapting, how do you believe the industry you're in will evolve in the upcoming years?
Well, going forward, I really do not think that mass production like was in the past is going to be something in the future. I think that boat has sailed. Producing 10,000 items identical. I don't think in the jewelry business this is going to be something that will be going forward. I think that people are going to be more environmentally minded in their approach. They'll be more selective. They'll try to find pieces that have more quality to them rather than quantity. They'll look for pieces that are something that is more meaningful to them. So I think it is changing. I think the industry is changing a little bit and will change. I don't think it will go back. I think that the same mindset that people had of picking up something very inexpensive just to sort of have for the sake of having it, and then it sits in a closet or drawer or whatever. I don't think that will be something for jewelry. It will be, people will try to sort of look for pieces that are sentimental and more personal.
When you feel overwhelmed or tend to have lost your focus, what do you do to get back into the zone?
Well, I tend to follow a routine. I've learned that earlier on. Being a mom, being involved with a whole bunch of things all the time, the way I cope is I try to follow a routine. I'm not very strict with it. I'm kind to myself. I know that sometimes you can't, be completely, oh, it's 10 o'clock, I have to do this. However, I think a routine sort of relaxes me a little bit. It de-stresses because I know that things have to be done. I make lists. The way I cope is I make lists when I find that something needs to be done. I'll write it down. I have notebooks all over the place, different types of notebooks, creative notebooks and schedule notebooks of time and, and so what happens is that when I start to defocus, which is normal, you get stresses, things happen, whatever, I have to sit down and I go into my little area and I start looking. I start looking through some of my notes that I've done. And then it jars things. It reminds me that, oh, yes, I did think of that, or yes, this has to be done. And sometimes it's, if I get stuck and I can't focus on something, then it helps me. So I go back to the list and I sort of say, okay, well, maybe I don't have time to do perhaps 4 hours of intense, whatever, either it's working on something or polishing something or computer has to be done, or I don't feel like it. I'll do a little bit of it and then I tick it off, it's done. So I break it up, I guess, rather than eating the whole elephant, you break it up in little pieces and you kind of try to do a little, but you're always advancing and it makes you feel good about that. So that's how I sort of cope with the unfocused. Sometimes it just doesn't work. So I just take a break. I take a break. I'm not hard on myself. It'll come. I know it does. So I just take a little break, do something else, take a walk, and it'll come. Listen to some music, and that's how I sort of focus back into the work.
And so at the end of the day then, what message are you looking to share with your art? Or are you looking to share with the community even?
Well, I think that most people find that art is only found in galleries. But I think that a lot of people, it's true, art is something that's beautiful to someone's eyes. It means something different to everyone. And it has to touch your heart. I find that these days, a lot of people are into this minimalist style, and they sort of feel that things are clutter. and collecting things is clutter, and having things is clutter, that just the basics need to be part of your life. A lot of people have that trend. They're on that trend right now. But I find that we need sort of art for emotional side. I think that it's something that you kind of need to, it's valuable. It might not fulfill our basic needs, it's true, but it fulfills a certain emotional need that we all need done. It makes you feel happy. Someone going into either a shop or market stall or whatever, they see a quirky little sculpture, or they see a quirky little, thing that someone made, and it resonates with them, and it makes them, feel good. They see a little bracelet, for example, and I see that often. And oh, this is nice, and you see the smile on their face, and it kind of makes them feel good, and whether it gives them confidence. Some people sort of look for pieces and of art and whatever. Sometimes they feel good, but they have confidence. It's this sort of inner happiness that comes with it, and it's a sense of joy. And I think that that is also makes life a little bit more enjoyable.
I completely agree. And so how do you determine on what you're going to work on next? I'm going to rephrase that. But how do you determine what you're going to work on next?
Well, it's a creative process. First I sort of, logistic wise, a lot of things go into it. The first thing I do is I think about it. I sometimes will make a little sketch about it in my little notebook, like I mentioned. And then I think of the practical side of it. Can I do this? Is it possible? What do I need to do this? Do I need to learn something new? I try it. Sometimes it goes, oh no, I can't do this. I can't do this. It's too hard. I can't do this. And then I go back to it and okay, well, what can I do to make it work? And I kind of try it again and again. I'm talking about new things that I've done. And then afterwards, I go online, I do a little bit of research. What do I need? How can I make this work? And then it goes in. So that's how, I determine what will be the next sort of thing that I create.
What's next for you? What would you say your projects are for the upcoming year? Any hopes or aspirations?
Well, the next projects, I'm working on a few things. Suppliers, things have changed a little bit. And I've also had some things on the burner. I don't always work with the same type of stones. I try to work with different color palettes. This summer, 2022, I'll be focusing more on colors and the natural sort of colors, sort of in stones and stuff. So I'll be bringing that a lot in this year. I'm looking forward to the Trizal. It'll be happening this summer. So I'm right now in the process of looking at things that will work. And it's just the total sort of vibe that I'm getting. And it changes from season to season. So I work with that. Right now, I think of colors is the one that I'm focusing right now. I'm trying to bring in the brightest colors that I see in stones to sort of put forth this new thing.
And where can we find you and your work?
Well, this year in 2022, in July, I'm one of the artists I'll be being part of the Tour des Arts, which is a very nice event that happens in July. It's been going on for many years, and it sort of incorporates many artists in the area. So I'm one of those artists in West Bolton. So it'd be nice to see anyone coming in. There'll be pamphlets and things. You can go on the Tour des Arts website, and the details will be on that. And I do have a studio. I have a studio in West Bolton that's open by appointment. And I do events during the year. So individuals that like my style, like to sort of connect. I do events, new launches. I do VIP events. So anyone that likes to sort of be on that. Sometimes there's pieces that are not on the website. They're just special pieces. So if anyone likes to have that sort of secret kind of way of getting into getting things, they can find me on my website. Send me a link for my newsletter. I do a newsletter where I send out sort of information of what's going on and stuff. I have a Facebook. Lucy Pietraszkiewicz. It's kind of a long name, but there's not too many with that name, so it's easy to find me. So I have a Facebook. I also have an Instagram, which sort of gives a little behind the scenes, what's going on in my day and what's coming up, little insights. So we mentioned that I do have my pieces in some stores. There's a very nice little store, Linen Lane in Sutton. They do nice linens and cashmeres. They keep a little collection of my pieces, which works out nicely. There's a little store, E-Townships in Knowlton. They have a little gift shop and of local items, and in their gift shop they also carry some of my pieces. So that's some of the places. Did I forget anyone else? So I guess that's pretty much it. You can always email me. My information is either through my Facebook, through my Instagram. You can DM me. You can go on my website shop, lucypietraszkiewicz.com. And there's many ways now people can connect with me. So that's how people get in contact with me.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being part of our Artist of the Week series. It's an honor to have you here with us. And is there anything else you'd like to leave us with before we end the episode off here?
Well, I just want to thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. It was a nice surprise when I got a call. And it's something I enjoyed. And it was nice sort of connecting. And I hope people that didn't know, there's lots of nice artists in this area to explore, and it's a beautiful area we live in, and there's lots of little areas, lots of little, individual artists that are behind the scenes working in this Eastern Townships area. And I find that CDI is a nice sort of outlet, and it makes people feel good to sort of get a glimpse of another side of life.
Well, thank you so much. And so thank you so much for watching Artists of the Week. This has been CIDI 99.1 FM, and we'll see you next week.